Hi, everyone. This is Lisa Haven, and yesterday I put out a report I found on InfoWars' Alex Jones, where President Obama made one of the most lethal statements he has ever made, in my opinion, where he basically compares capitalism to communism and stating that the two are pretty much one in the same and that we should do whatever works best. Now, that is fighting words, in my opinion, especially considering the fact that he just came back from Cuba, where he met with Raul Castro, a communist, and not to mention how many communist people surround Obama alone. Now, before I actually play that clip, which I'm going to in a moment, and I really wanted to expand on that report yesterday and do my own video on this because this is crucial information and it should send chills down everyone's spine. Now, this is not a fear factor, but it's a straight up, if you've been to a communist country or seen communist things or lived through it, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I will say this before I play the clip, and there's some statistics I want to show you. I actually have visited Bulgaria, which is an ex-communist country. It's still there in some way, shape, or form, in my personal opinion, though they're not communist anymore, obviously. But I went there, and when I was there visiting, what you will notice under these communist country is these macro, micro apartments. Everything's smaller. Everything was micro size. Elevators were smaller. Cars were smaller. There are no bigger vehicles because most of the country was poorer off. And that is kind of what you have. You have a rich ruling class and you have a poor ruling class. That's what comes as a result to the dictatorship and tyranny that you would have under communism. Happens every time. We just need to look to history. Go to a country who has been through communism and is coming through communism, though it's still there in form. Also, another thing that I noticed while I was in Bulgaria is you have all of the same companies. So, for example, we'd be driving down the road, we'd stop at a gas station. Well, everything in that gas station was the same, exact same as the next gas station and the next gas station and the next one. They all had the same produce. They all had the same product. They all had the same painted detail work. It was just a copycat of each convenient store. Unlike here in America, where we have different types. We have Circle K. We have 7-Eleven. We have Texaco, and all these different kinds of convenience stores. Well, there's one in Bulgaria, at least all the ones that I came across, and all the products are the same. You have one chip maker, you have one Q-tip maker, you have one person who makes this particular item, and that's where the ruling class comes in. You have one to rule them all, kind of like what's happening with Verizon here in America. Verizon is the top. It's killing all the other competition. Well, under communism, Verizon would be the only option. All the others would die, and you would not have that option to choose and pick what you want. And then you come into, they can charge what they want because there is no competition. They can, you can pay whatever they tell you to pay. You can have your services monitored. Whatever they say goes. And chances are they'll be in league with the communist regimes. This is just a piece of what communism is, and this is why the statement from Obama that I'm going to play for you should send chills down your spine. Not to mention, okay, now that we've got that covered, Obama himself surrounds himself with communist people and leftist ideology. He's got a lot of them, in fact. Saul Alinsky, we know that, and I'm going to reference my notes here. I'll also put them in my report on Freedom Nation News and Lisa Haven News. But in California, Obama studied under Saul Alinsky, the man who wrote The Rules for Radicals. Very, very communistic beliefs. And I'm going to just review this because I know you guys, some of you are aware of this. The ACLU former director and board member of a leftist group, National People's Action, John L. McKnight, taught Obama about community organizing. Obama attended Harvard Law School. He supported Professor Derek Bell, who is a racist and pushed for diversity on campus, whatever that means. Social justice or redistribution of wealth, another ideology or Marxist ideology. Co-founder of violent radical left organization Weather Underground. Bill and Bernadette Ayers helped Obama launch his Chicago political career. Carl Davidson, a Maoist, organized Obama's 2012 anti-war speech. We have Patrick Gaspard, head of the White House Office of Political Affairs. And these are people that have either been in that position in the past or in it now, but just in some way were affiliated with Obama. Now, Obama's appointee, Green Czar Van Jones, we know he's no longer in that, but nonetheless, he was communist and black nationalist spokesman for Palestine Liberation Organization, Rashid Khalid, known as a dinner guest in Obama's home. Mark Lloyd. He's a diversity star and a left-wing activist. We also have Obama's good name, but Obama's regulatory star, Cass Sunstein, just to name a few. And that's just off of a quick list that I have compiled. Now, these are people that he surrounds himself with on a daily basis, or that he deals with, or that he appointed or put into office at some time or another. Now, let me show you some statistics on what communist does. Let's go to that report. All right, so here's a quick statistic on communism. And this is, let me just say this. We have Bernie Sanders right now, who is, running for the presidential election for 2016. He is an open socialist believer. And socialism 100% of the time leads to communism. In my opinion, they're one and the same. Socialism will lead you into communism. This is what communism brings, like clockwork. Every single time it's implemented. This is why people were, accused of being a communist early on in American history, because there are some serious issues with it. And here Obama is, which I'm going to play the clip in a moment, so hold tight if you have not heard it, saying the two are one in the same. But mass killings, and this is on Wikipedia, under the communist regimes. And what I want to show you here is this statistic is in the summary of the Black Book of Communists. Martin Malaya suggests a death toll of between 85 to 100 million people who have died under a communist regime. And actually, he quotes that number more specifically in that report or book as 94 million people have died. And let me just show you that here's the Black Book of Communism, a book written by several European and edited by this guy. It documents a history of repression, both political and civilian, by communist states, including genocide, extrajudicial executions, deportations, and fake famines, as what happened with the Soviet Union, to mention some. But here is his actual count. He says 94 million, and here's the breakdown. 65 million died under the People's Republic of China, which is, we still have a communist country in China. The Soviet Union, 20 million. 2 million in Cambodia, 2 million North Korea, 1.7 Ethiopia, 1.5 Afghanistan, 1 million in the communist state of Eastern Europe, 1 million in the Vietnam, 150 in Latin America, mainly Cuba. Who did our president just meet with? 10,000 deaths from communist movement. Those are just movements throughout. Soviet repressions. Here are some of the repressive regimes under Vladimir Lenin and Joseph Stalin, two communists. The executions of tens of thousands of hostages and prisoners. The murders of hundreds of thousands of rebellious workers and peasants. Now, this is all in the 20th century. Just keep that in the back of your mind. I'm not even going through prior than this, but the murder of hundreds of thousands of workers, Russian famine in 1921 that caused 5 million people to die, extermination and deportation of the Don Cossacks in 1920, murder of tens of thousands in concentration camps. We know what happened there. The Great Purge, 2 million were deported, the deaths of 4 million Ukrainians, 2 million others during the famine of 1932 and 33. And it kind of goes on from there. You guys can pause and see this, but communism, nonetheless, which I'm sure all of you are aware, is something that is evil to the core. All right, so there you have it. Communism, speaking from history in the 20th century alone, will kill millions and does kill millions, especially if it's ever implemented. And we're already getting it on some form. I have a list here that I want to share with you after I play the clip from Obama, but it's a list of communist goals as revealed by Dr. Cleon Skousen in The Naked Communist. He's actually got, or I've got at least 45 of them written. I'm going to share a few, and I'll leave the information list as well on my freedomnationnews.com report. But here's the thing, it will kill millions. That's a fact. So if we want to put capitalism and communism together, we have a real issue here. But let's hear what Obama has to say. I'm going to play that clip.
So often in the past, there's been a sharp division between left and right, between capitalist and communist or socialist. And especially in the Americas, that's been a big debate, right? You're a capitalist Yankee dog, and you're some crazy communist that's gonna take away everybody's property. And I mean, those are interesting intellectual arguments, but I think for your generation, you should be practical and just choose from what works. You don't have to worry about whether it neatly fits into socialist theory or capitalist theory. You should just decide what works. And I said this to President Castro in Cuba. I said, look, you've made great progress in educating young people. Every child in Cuba gets a basic education. That's a huge improvement from where it was. Medical care. The life expectancy of Cubans is equivalent to the United States, despite it being a very poor country, because they have access to healthcare. That's a huge achievement.
Okay, he's upsetting me, I'm sorry. Besides Cuba being a poor country, they're poor because they've got a form of communism there. And to say that they've had huge improvements, why not talk about all the political dissidents by the tens of thousands, probably larger than that he is killing. Let's go on.
They should be congratulated.
Oh, but congratulated.
You drive around Havana and this economy is not working. It looks like it did in the 1950s. And so you have to be practical in asking yourself, how can you achieve the goals of equality and inclusion, but also recognize that the market system produces a lot of wealth and goods and services and innovation. And it also gives individuals freedom because they have initiative. And so you don't have to be rigid in saying it's either this or that. You can say, depending on the problem you're trying to solve, depending on the social issues that you're trying to address, what works? And I think that what you'll find is that the most successful societies, the most successful economies are ones that are rooted in a market-based system, but also recognize that a market does not work by itself. It has to have a social and moral and ethical and community basis. And there has to be inclusion, otherwise it's not stable. And it's up to you as you in whether you're in business or in academia or in the nonprofit sector, whatever you're doing, to create new forms that are adapted to the new conditions that we live in today.
All right. I've about had enough of that man. That's upsetting. So you heard it from his mouth, not mine. He said that. And I think he's pretty clear on what he means. He further expands, how, we should be able to choose one or the other, because they're both so wonderful. They're both so good. No, communism is not good. Okay. Never in history has that ever been a case. And he just wants to be a dictator. And we know he has communist views. I shared with you a whole list of people that he surrounds himself with, and that's not all of them. Now, based off of that speech, you heard a lot about inequality and being equality. He even praised Cuba. And I did a report on that as well a few days ago. I highly encourage you to watch that on Obama's things that he wants to do before exiting, I believe was the title of it. But let me reveal to you this list. Keep in mind what Obama just said. This is the list of communists from The Naked Communist by Cleon Skousen. And these are the goals in order to implement communism in a country. It goes from socialism to communism. I'm not going to read them all because there's 45, but I will leave all of them in the list in my report. Just check out the link below under, here's the link that goes with the post. You can click it there. So now here's one. U.S. acceptance of coexistence as the only alternative to atomic war, meaning we all need to get along. New World Order kind of mentality. Develop the illusion that total disarmament by the U.S. would demonstrate moral strength. Permit free trade with countries, even if they're communist countries. Provide America aid to all nations, regardless if they're communist or not. Grant recognition to Red China. We know China is a communist state who Obama is pretty much buddy-buddy with, in my opinion. But allow all Soviet satellites individual representation in the United Nations, and even promote the UN as the only solution to humanity and hope for mankind. Hopes, I guess, that a one world government and you have a leader, one leader kind of a mentality. Resist any attempt to outlaw the Communist Party, which they have done, and they've done pretty hardcore on that one. Do away with loyalty oaths. They're doing that through political correctness. Capture one or both political parties in the United States. They've done that. We don't have Republican and Democrat. We have Redemocrat. I guess Redemocrat. One unit, one party, and there's one agenda. Thankfully, there are some non-establishment candidates right now who I believe to be Trump. So hopefully, I don't know, I guess time will tell on that. We just don't know how that's going to play out. That's another conversation. But use technical decisions of the courts to weaken America institutions by claiming their activities violate a civil right. Again, political correctness. Oh, you violated my civil right. Sister, you going to court. Even though you may not have, or, we have freedom of speech. Gain control of student newspapers at colleges. Check. Gain control of the schools. Check. This is what Common Core is all about. They implemented socialism mentality, and I've read through some of this stuff in Communist Core. That's why I call it that, because they have progressive leaning mentalities. Progressive is socialism with a different name. Gain control of TV, radio, motion pictures, infiltrate the press, use student riots to have public protest against organizations. Eliminate all laws governing censorship and violation of free speech and freedom of press. Eliminate laws governing obscenity, by calling them censorship. Basically, you are not allowed to talk about the founders because, you see, they were racist, right? That's the kind of stuff that it's talking about doing on that one. They're doing that. Oh, and actually, another one in that group is discredit the American founders, the founding fathers. Discredit the Constitution by calling it old and outdated. Infiltrate the churches. That's also happening. And replace revealed religion with social justice religion. That's happening as well. Belittle all forms of American college. Support any socialist movement. Discredit and dismantle the FBI. Infiltrate and gain control of unions, of big businesses. Transfer the power of arrest from police to social agencies. Now, this is a huge one. Also, discredit the family as an institution and emphasize the need to raise children away from the, quote, negative influence of their mother and father. Now, that one, the negative influence of mother and father, and transfer the police state to people outside the police. This is what they're implementing via the draft that I've spoken about numerous times on this report, and I'll leave a link, but it's by U.S. Department of Education. I want to quote this right. Here we go. This draft, excuse me for just a second, it's called U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and also was put together by the U.S. Department of Education. It's called Draft Policy Statement on Family Engagement from the Early Years to the Early Grades. Google that, and I will leave a link. But that has basically accomplished both of those agendas on communists. So it's there when it actually officially goes through. Overthrow all colonial governments before native populations are ready for self-government. So the list goes on. Like I said, I skimmed the surface of those 45. You got just a few. But obviously, some of these are already underway. They're already happening. And what does Obama say? Don't worry, choose what you want because they're both good. Forget the fact that millions will die. And they have an evil satanic agenda. And you know what I hate is when people say, oh, our government's a good government, they know what's best for us. Or even, we have people who say that, but we also have people, well, I know there's corruption in the government, but what can I do about it? You're just a fearmonger. And it's like, you know what? Inform yourself. It's not just about being afraid. It's about being informed and being prepared for what's going on. If the people in the Soviet Union knew what would happen, with what Joseph Stalin had done, if they prepared for the famines, if they prepared for the things that came with communism, they may have survived. But many didn't live to tell the tale because they were too busy calling people fearmongers and saying, it's too scary for me to think about. And that's not what I want you to do. I want you to get prepared. And if you're not prepared right now, please get prepared with food. I personally, you can stock your own food. You can put it in Mylar bags, put oxygen suckers, or you can order it. I personally order a lot from foodforliberty.com/haven. They are my personal source. My personally use them. I've love their product. I've tasted their food. Great. Get food storage. Get prepared. Also, they're one of my sponsors. It helps fund what I do here. Also, if you have not tried it yet, I highly encourage you to check out getthetea.com. He's got lots of products that can cleanse out your system and keep you healthy. You got to keep in mind that they're still putting things like fluoride in the water, GMOs. We have, attacks with the vaccinations. We have attacks from our skies with chemtrails and geoengineering. And these are the stuffs that we need to, be getting rid and out of our bodies, are not putting into our bodies. And nonetheless, he's got a great product at Get the Tea. It's called Super Strength Tea. I take it all the time. And I highly encourage you to try it as well. It is a detox and it works. I wouldn't use it, wouldn't recommend it if it didn't. Anyhow, wanted to bring this to you guys. Also, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. Got lots of great information to share. Anyhow, thanks again for tuning in. This is Lisa Haven signing out.